Hello, this is Nate Bailey from SouthernOregonHunting.com and SouthernOregonHuntingBlogspot.com. Today I want to go over my favorite form of archery, and that's the stick bow. I use this same bow to hunt elk with, and I've used it to hunt turkeys with, and all sorts of different animals. Now most of you are looking at this and going, oh yeah, that's my bow from my grandfather. And yeah, your grandfathers did use this kind of bow if they were archers. And today, you don't see too many of these because the compounds have taken over the market. And I understand that. I understand why. Compounds are easier to learn. You don't have to take the time to shoot repetitively. With a stick bow, it's a repetitive thing. And also compounds take some of they're a little bit faster bow. They're a little bit easier to get set up and get all your arrows set up. And in today's world, I understand that, it's better to go bow hunting than not go bow hunting at all. So if it takes a compound bow, it takes a compound bow. But I found if you give this just a little time and a little effort, the rewards are excellent. With the stick bow, it's like any other human sport. The first thing you have to do is you have to shoot it repetitively, okay? Michael Jordan didn't just go out on the basketball court one day and make 3-pointers. Now, he was probably better than most of us and it didn't take him as long, but he didn't just go out there and make 3-pointers. The same thing is true with this. Nobody just goes out and shoots it and keeps tight groups and can be real lethal with it. But with a lot of practice, this bow is just as lethal as any bow that's out there. In the right hands, this bow is probably more lethal because it's quicker to the draw than a lot of the compound shooters. And it does limit your yardages, but in my opinion, you shouldn't be shooting those yardages anyhow. An extra 100 feet per second will not help that animal's reaction time. So you're not gaining that much. You're not gaining that much. If you're shooting a long yardage, 60 yards, you've just given that animal so much more reaction time, and he could duck the arrow and all these other things that could go wrong. So archery's a game of close, and I think we should keep it at that. With that said, I know guys that have done really well shooting animals at 60 yards and really ethical shots, animals looking away and not even knowing they're there. But what I am saying is most of our shots in the archery world are probably 30 yards and less. And in that range, this bow is very lethal. Now, most people don't get into it because they're a little bit afraid of trying to shoot these, and that they think they can't. But I'm here to tell you, if you could shoot a basketball, you could shoot a stick bow. It's the same thing. There are three things. The first thing is proper form. That's the same thing with every sport that's out there. You got to have proper form. Before you can throw a football, you got to have proper form. The second thing is proper equipment. And that doesn't mean that you have to go buy a bunch of different stick bows and different arrows. You just have to have a very good matched set of equipment. Your arrows have to match your bow. And especially with the longbow. If you look at that longbow, it is not center cut. So the arrow sits off to the side of the center of the string. So when that arrow comes out around the bow, it's actually bending around it. And you have to be able to have that arrow straighten back out quick enough. And the only way you can do that is by adjusting the spine of the arrow. Now that's beyond the scope of today, but what you do is you want to match your arrow. Just know that this has to match, okay? So first thing is form, second thing is matching your equipment, and then third thing is repetition, 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 repetition. And I can't stress that enough. So form, the first thing about form is pick a bow that sits in your hand really well. And long bows for me, that's what they sit in my hand really well. I can shoot a long bow real well. And then every time you want to come to the same spot. Everything you want to do is exactly the same. Everything you want to do is exactly the same every shot. The reason you want to do that is because if everything is exactly the same here, that arrow is going to come off of the shelf the same speed at the same spot with the same release. Okay. Once you've got that down, 90% of your stick bow shooting is taken care of. For me, and you can do this in your house. String up your bow, come back to the spot. Concentrate on where you're pulling that finger. Where your finger and the meaty, bony part of your palm or your wrist or comes up and touches right on my cheek. My finger comes right in the corner of my mouth. So I come to that spot every time. And as I come to that spot every time, that means that I'm pulling the bow the same amount on both sides, and it's shooting exactly the same speed every time. That's huge. Once you get good form down, the rest of it falls into place. Get good form, arrows and bows that match. I could go into a whole hour of trying to help you guys out with that, but go on YouTube, check things out. Go to my blog and check all those things out. I'll put some stuff up to show you how to properly match your arrows and your bow. And then the third thing is repetition, repetition, repetition. Shoot a lot, and it's fun. Archery is one of the funnest things that we humans can do. Something about an arrow flying that makes it really fun for you. Now, I shoot purely instinctive, so what I'm doing is I'm concentrating, just like a basketball player concentrates on where he's going to put the ball up on the hoops for it to go in. I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm just concentrating on where I want to hit. As I shoot my arrows, it hits the target. And if I'm hitting a target and maybe I'm not hitting where I'm looking at, but I'm getting a good consistent group, I just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. My brain will compensate and it will move me into the target. If you use the same stuff over and over and over again, just like using a basketball on the hoop over and over again, eventually your brain will take over and it'll compensate. Troy Aikman, he could throw a pass 50 yards and hit the spot that he wants to hit, and that's because he's done it so much that his brain is compensated for it. He has the muscle memory and everything follows that. So you could do exactly the same thing. This is one of those things you could do exactly the same. Traditional bow hunting. This stuff is not that hard. It's a very lethal way of hunting, and I guarantee you, you'll love it.